I had always been drawn to the old house at the end of Willow Lane. It stood alone, its once white paint now a peeling gray, windows clouded with grime. The townsfolk whispered about it, claiming it was haunted by the spirit of its last resident, a man named Henry who had disappeared decades ago. Curiosity got the better of me one crisp autumn evening, and I decided to explore. As I approached, the air grew still, thick with an unsettling silence. I pushed open the creaking door, the hinges protesting as if warning me to turn back. The interior was cloaked in shadows, furniture draped in dusty sheets, giving the place a ghostly appearance. My heart raced, but I pressed on, drawn to the staircase that spiraled into darkness. Upstairs, the hallway stretched before me, lined with doors that loomed like sentinels. I hesitated, then opened the first door. Inside was a small room, cluttered with yellowed newspapers and broken toys. A chill swept over me as I stepped in, an almost palpable sense of dread hanging in the air. I turned to leave when something caught my eye, a cracked mirror hanging on the wall. As I approached, I noticed it didn't just reflect the room. It felt as though it was reaching into another world. The glass rippled like water, distorting my image. I leaned in closer, entranced. Suddenly, I felt a rush of cold air behind me. I turned, but the hallway was empty, silence enveloping me once again. Returning to the mirror, I felt an inexplicable urge to touch it. As my fingers grazed the surface, a violent jolt surged through me, as if the mirror had a pulse. I stumbled back, heart racing, and I swore I saw a shadow moving within the glass. It was a figure, indistinct but undeniably human. Panic clawed at me as I tried to shake off the unease. I backed away, but the figure began to take shape. A man with hollow eyes and a crooked smile. My breath hitched. "Who are you?" I whispered, though I knew no one could hear me. The figure raised a hand, palm pressed against the glass, mirroring my own terrified expression. I could feel an overwhelming sadness emanating from it, a desperate plea that sent shivers down my spine. I needed to leave. I turned and fled down the hallway, the sound of my own heartbeat drowning out all else. But as I reached the staircase, I felt a cold grip around my ankle. I stumbled, nearly falling. I looked back. The mirror's reflection was now swirling violently, as if the man was trying to break free. Fear surged through me, and I sprinted down the stairs, nearly colliding with the front door. It wouldn't budge. Frantic, I pulled and pushed, but it was as if the house itself was holding me captive. I glanced back at the staircase. The figure was now standing at the top, a ghastly grin stretching across its face. Its eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, and I felt a terrible sense of inevitability wash over me. With one last desperate attempt, I rammed my shoulder against the door, and it finally gave way, sending me tumbling out onto the overgrown lawn. I didn't stop running until I reached the safety of my car, heart pounding in my chest. I locked the doors and sped away, glancing back only once. The house loomed behind me, silent and foreboding. Weeks passed, but I couldn't shake the memory of that mirror. I found myself drawn back to it, unable to resist the pull. I returned to the house during the day, determined to confront whatever darkness lurked within. This time I armed myself with a flashlight and a sense of purpose. Inside, the air felt heavier, as if it knew I was back. I climbed the stairs again, each creak underfoot echoing in the silence. When I reached the small room, the mirror stood waiting, its surface calm but ominous. This time I steadied myself and spoke firmly. "What do you want?" The figure appeared again, eyes locked onto mine, its expression shifting from sorrow to something darker. It seemed to beckon me closer. Against my better judgment, I reached out again. As my fingers brushed the glass, the world around me blurred. I was pulled in, tumbling through darkness, and suddenly I was standing in the room on the other side. But it was not the same room. It was as if I had stepped into a twisted version of reality, where shadows lurked in every corner and whispers filled the air. The figure stood before me, no longer distorted. It wore the same clothes as I did, and as I looked down, I realized I was staring at my own reflection. Panic surged as I understood. I was trapped in the mirror, a prisoner of my own curiosity. The figure smiled wider, an echo of my own face before it began to fade. "You've always been here," it whispered. And in that moment, I felt the last remnants of my identity slipping away. I was lost, forever part of the reflection, waiting for the next curious soul to wander into the house on Willow Lane.